Hey everybody, what up? Scuffy here, and today I'm going to plan on taking a look here at a event warlord. Well, it's not event exclusive warlord, but rather how to use Nassau in the Rise of Zhao-Arkhad event. I'll give you a little bit of background here. The Rise of Zhao-Arkhad, the initial bombing from the central host, left all of Prospero burning except for Tizca. Or so the attackers thought. Once the land assault began, several vaults outside the City of Light opened, revealing hordes of Mechanicum allies of the Thousand Suns ready to fight the invaders. And this event is bringing us currently. We've got the Custodes, and then we've got Hathermat. I think we've got a Mechanicum robot, which is an event warlord specifically. And I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, this is hinting at, hopefully, a third Mechanicum warlord. Now, if you saw my my Nassau video a few weeks back, you know that I've done some practice with Nassau. I was familiar with him. I really liked kind of how he performed in the last event, even though the last event ended up being dominated by the Thousand Suns before some changes. Nassau played pretty good. He still plays very good here in this current event. So I ended up with a 12-win run. His strategy remains sound, and I really kind of wanted to share some pointers that I have with folks. It's been, it's been 3 or 4 events, I think, since I've done an event deck strategy video. So I've got some stuff pinned. I've got some other stuff pinned from Nassau just because I kind of like it. But I'm going to show you 3 games that I had. I got some bot games in here. We had Hathermat, 2 games against Amon. That last one there was my 12-win with Amon. Oh, and before I get into it, so I gotta say, Constantine Valor is in my collection now. He was in my crate. This is my first event run, single ticket, 12 wins, Constantine Valor. So all that craziness of 250 crates opening, I think that's where it ended up being. I think the final count was 250 crates. I got Magnus on that very last crate, and I now have Valdor, and that actually means, first off, it means, guys, I need new deck slots. Come on. I'm not even, following my formula here, that Nassau space should be dedicated to Magnus. So I'm actually 2 deck slots down. I can't do a Shapura. I can't do a Constantine deck. But I can do this. Ready? Oh, here we go. Yes. Show me them all. And then really quick forward, just because. Really quick forward. Here we go. That's everybody. That's it. That's all of them. It's every warlord. I feel complete. And so long as performance remains consistent, I don't think I'm going to have any issue getting the 4th warlords for the new factions when they drop. Feeling really good. Feeling happy. But, so all that done, said and aside, and let's talk about these Nassau replies. My phone's going off. I should turn my notifications off, but I never do. I never learn. So first off, let's take a look at Hathermat. Hathermat can be a problem. Hathermat can be a problem if you let him. In this game here, this is a good example of a Hathermat game. I had 2 losses out of my 12-win runs. One was to a Hathermat who, and this was further down the list, so I can't show it to you because I had to do dailies and stuff in there. But he was able to get quick blood rapid fired on a beefy troop and then heal it, so it kept the health higher than what I was able to do damage. And once he was able to do that, it was a long, arduous fight to the death, and I still died. And then the other one was just against a perfect draw Amon. Amon is a tough matchup, and we'll take a look at a video in regards to that. But the strategy with Nassau is, you know, so many people are like, oh, Custodians, I gotta play these Custodians troops. They're high, and I'll trade off the Sentinel for some beefy stats. Yes and no. Yeah, I'll get her some ham and cheese again. My daughter's at dance recital tonight, and then I'm getting her dinner. Hang on, I'm going to pause this for just a sec. Okay, so, getting back into this here. I had to pause it really quick, take care of some messaging. What I do with Nassau, and I find the strategy works, is not to play this Custodes cards unless I absolutely have to. Either as a way to, as a flanking card, or as a way to establish superiority once I know where I'm in a position that I can. Primarily, I want to use his ability to do 2 damage on the Warlord as many times as possible. Now, against Hather Matt, this doesn't work as well. You have to do a little more aggressive because he can heal that too, and then and then he can play a troop heal too, and so it is a little bit of a give and take. Now, and that's where you kind of have to just trade off the bodies here. I could play the Ayrton Squad or the Hunting Eagles, but once you play those guys, you're not drawing cards. He has 6 cards in hand. I've got 5, and I would consistently be going down in cards, so I want to keep that up. Now, through the course of this game, you'll see that he was not getting rid of any of his energy. He's saving it up. I knew he was saving it up after the second turn. So something big was coming, and I believe it was the command post. Command post is pretty nasty. He can pump up things with frontline and then just make sure they never die. So hanging on to that Euphori or the jam cards, this deck here that I played was the Custodian-Warder deck. It's a solid deck. It has the Paragon Spear, which is super important for Nassau. It's the best deck if you ask me. But basically, having the ability to jam, having the ability to go precognition as long as possible, if I can avoid taking direct damage, or attack damage rather, and can instead clear out the board and force my opponent to play cards while I draw up a hand of power. That's what I'm going to do. I've still got 3 cards here. He's got the advantage, but he's dedicating a lot of his resources here, and that's okay, to clear my board, because he thinks that it's important. And I mean, don't get me wrong, those cards are mean, but it's not what ails me. Now, getting those dogs out there, I'll be honest, this move here, I put those guys out as bait specifically for one of those 2 units, because I knew I could do this. If he doesn't attack with the Firewalkers, he has to basically use the dogs, the Beasts of Fyra. So he doesn't. He leaves the Beasts of Fyra. He's very smart, though, with this move. He takes Warp Portal, takes it back into hand so I can't hide, or so he thinks. But it's about staying one step ahead. It's about lasting as long as I possibly can, to avoid whatever he can dish out. I forgot that this has been going. I haven't done anything here. So with this game, he's kept his guys safe with the precog, but now I can just ping that guy, stay precog. He still can't do anything with the dogs, but I have a troop that he has to attack the dogs with, or get rid of them with something else, or he could attack with the Issachar ore. So it's really a give and take here at this point. You know, his ability to heal those dogs does suck, because if he attacks them, he attacks my guy, he can clear that out. But he made a big mistake here, and I'm not quite sure why. I think he was dumping his hand, hoping, you've got 1 card in hand, there's nothing you can do about it, I'm going to throw everything I have at you. First off, you don't know what card I have in my hand. And second off, you put down a 2 health troop, which is not a good idea. With my ability, I can turn a 2 health troop into a turn that you can't touch me. At best, with 1 card in hand, he can play like Octo or Witchfire, do some sort of direct damage. But as you can see, I have more health than him. And yeah, he could heal 4 health here and go back up to 19 health. I'm still in advantage, or 5 health rather, because of the Psyker energy that he just generated this turn. But I'm at an advantage, and now I have the spear. Hold out as long as possible. try not to play Custodian's troops as long as possible to give yourself the spear. If you have spear in your opening hand, don't mulligan it. You want that. That makes this deck huge. And here, I'm able to clear his board now. With the spear, first strike, taking no damage, which is a great ability in of itself. We'll talk about Pluck and Duck here in the next 2 games. And then I've got a big beefy 8-drop troop, which has got an amazing ability here for defense. If your warlord is attacked, deal 3 damage to the attacker. And I think he miscounted that, miscalculated that. He thought he could heal, and he realized that he could not heal, and he was going to eat a lot of damage. Even with 1 card in my hand, that Sentinel 8 attack, that's going to do a lot of damage. So a couple misplays on Hather Matt there, but at the same time kind of showing how to draw out the game, how to avoid putting Custodians down early. This makes a big difference. My stomach is rumbling. Oof. This makes a big difference in the games against Amon. Now, that one against Lionel, I hope it reloads because it was an older game, but it was also a really good game. We're going to play this one first. Let's play this one. This is a good game against Amon. Amon is very tricky against Nassau because his ability is deal 1 damage to a troop, or deal 1 damage if it's a troop stun it, which basically turns your Custodian's troops into liabilities. If you put down a big, beefy 6 health troop, he can stun that for 6 turns, and you're not going to draw any cards. And that troop isn't going to do anything for you. And now, yes, that's using his ability, and he's not doing anything else with Amon, but that's enough. If he can deny you 6 turns of card drawing, that's huge. Now, that troop there, that puts some pressure on me. I don't want to take 4 damage right away. So, thankfully, you've got the flankers in this deck, and you have to use them correctly. Flankers and Goldstone you have to use correctly. But I'm not committing anything. I'm not using my ability. I could have used this Shadow Throne, but he's got Astartes troops. I want to use it on a good Astartes troop. If I have to, and just to give me, it gives you a way to draw cards. So what is Pluck and Duck? I mentioned that earlier. We'll get into this a little bit. I'm not sure if I get the spear in this game. I think I might. But Pluck and Duck as a whole is a term I'm coining. I like the sound of it, and it makes really sense for his play style. He doesn't stealth, but he does precog. If you use his ability to do 2 damage and go into precog mode, you do a little bit of damage, you hide. Now what I did here with that, I got rid of his guy that beefs up targets, and I forced him either to attack my swooping hawk with his troop or with his ability, which is what he does here. And at the same time, see, now this I think was where he made a mistake, because he should have used his troop to get rid of my troop so he could draw cards. I am now at 5 cards in hand. We're not counting, well, I guess we'll count the spear because that was in my hand at the start. I'm at 5 to his 3. I am officially at an advantage. He can have big, nasty attacks here. I don't care about that. I have more than him, and he makes a big mistake by, again, committing a second Astartes. He knows I have spear. He knows I have first strike. I have the ability to clear both of these guys. But Pluck and Duck is really just a matter of making the game go as long as possible to give yourself your hand, let it build up until you're in a position. Now, he's got 2 cards to my 4 in hand, plus an Astartes troop. Now, he can stun me, and I'm not going to be drawing any cards now. I'm not going to be able to use this troop. But I know what I've got in my hand, and I know that I can do more damage. I've got more health than him. I've got a non-Custodian's troop that he's going to have to eat some damage with. And I can do more than he can take. And if he has to dedicate his Amon action to stunning my guy now with my additional cards in hand, then I'm in a better spot. That's just how it comes down to it. I don't care at this point. I'm in a better position. But this is a good sign. I mean, like, if this would have happened earlier on, I would have thrown down a troop earlier. He could have been stunning a troop, making it worthless for me. I'm not drawing any more cards, and then suddenly he has the advantage. But that's not what I'm doing. I use this card there on the Rhino, mainly just because of card draw. just to try to get something at this point and to see what I got. I don't see him putting out any really good targets for that otherwise. So that's what I went with. So with the spear, what I recommend a good majority of the time, a good majority of the time with the spear, I recommend, rather than, because you give it to him, it gives him his ability to become 3/3, or 3 with Bloodthirst. Rather than use his ability or use an attack twice, I prefer to use his ability just to ping for 2. So I'm dealing 4 damage rather than dealing 6 damage, but I'm also taking 0 damage, and that's important. Now in this round, I had the precog, so I knew I could sit back, do some damage, and not have to really worry. I do have to get rid of this rhino though, because with it he's going to be able to continuously draw troops. Thankfully, I don't have any troops. I'm drawing cards, and I've got Auric Mortalis, and that's going to let me not just do damage across the board here, which was nice. I'm going to give myself precog, and then I'm going to sit back. You can't touch me. Now you got 2 nice, nasty cards, but you can't touch me. That's got to suck. Well, it's going to suck worse because you don't know what I've got, and I'm still drawing cards. I'm in a position here where even though he's got more cards on board, I'm an advantage because I know he cannot add anything to these cards. I'm going to take 14 to 16 damage from his Warlord. I have 24. That's all he can do to me. I'm going to win. My next turn, whether I have Goldstones or I use the spear twice, I'm going to win, and he recognizes that. But it's just a matter of outlasting and letting him put those bigger things out there. If I don't have to deal with them, I try not to. If there's something with Custodes, and don't get me wrong, the Custodes cards are definitely, are definitely ones that cannot be ignored for too long because they're just big beefy stats. But if you can take 4 damage, but you're retaining card advantage by being able to do that, and then on the next turn maybe you use your ability and you go into precog mode, or you're able to heal, or especially with the uncanny reflexes, you don't even have to. You can just do damage, heal, go precog. They can't do anything to you, and then they pass the opportunity to draw cards. That's huge. That's huge. So let's take a look here, and let's hope this replay plays. This is a little bit from earlier against Lion L, another Amon game. I don't know if it's going to play. There we go. But just another good example in terms of, this is a good game, but a good example of give and take, knowing when to give, when to take, when to pluck and duck, when to hide, or go into precog mode. Do a little bit of damage here, fade back. Do a little bit of damage there, fade back. Heal, stay 1 step ahead, and 2 steps away from what they can do. Don't play blood games right away. I usually don't play blood games until I've got 4 energy. Number 1, gives me 2 extra turns to use my ability to do 2 damage. Number 2, it gives me 2 extra turns to draw 2 cards. Hopefully drawing some tactics that are not, so when I play blood games, I'm not drawing a Custodes troop, or a tactic rather with it. It gives me a couple extra turns to kind of just draw some stuff. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But when it does work, it's very nice. And in an instance here, it didn't work, but you know what? I'll take the spear. That's not a bad thing to have. Having that, as soon as you can play that. There have been a couple turns where I don't play it on turn 5 or turn 4. But I play it normally as soon as I can, when possible, just because it's big. Now, he's got these self-replicating troops and these 4 damage troops, and that's gnarly to me. I don't like it. But at the same time, it is what it is. Do I want to eat 8 damage? No. I've got flankers to kind of help minimize things. But again, I haven't played any Custodes. Now, granted, he doesn't either. In his deck here, he hasn't played any Custodes troops just yet. We're kind of just throwing out infantry stuff. And shield generators makes me a little sad. I won't lie. That kind of Makes my precogs, makes my spear a little bit costlier. Don't like it. But at the same time, I'm still in an advantage to deal with that. I'll take 1 damage, and then I'll be able to deal with the shield generator on the next turn. Don't overly commit. Don't overly commit to getting rid of 1 troop. If just because they throw a big guy down, like that Ogren Sergeant, I'm not committed to getting rid of it right away. I have no interest in getting rid of it right away. First off, I've got Euphroi, or the Yepharoi. Ephoroi. I'm going to call it Ephoroi. I also had Melgator to deal with that. But I'm going to make him pay for it again a second time. I'm going to Melgator it first, just because he doesn't, because that's more frustrating. It's like, all right, fine, I'll bring him back. Okay, well, then I'll jam him. How about that? How about I just jam him? Before I jam him, I might copy him. I might copy him and then I jam him, or jam him and then copy him. Either which way, 5 health with the spear is optimal, because it lets me use my ability twice on him and hide, if I want to. I'm not going to. I'm going to just copy him because it's worth it. It's worth copying that Ogren troop. You can stun him all you want. He's not a Custodes. I kind of like that. I like that option. And let me drew a big thing. Now this troop here is, I wish I would have saved a jam for that. But at the same time, you do what you can. You do what you can. I'm going to take some damage here. So now my goal is to do as much damage as I possibly can. Thankfully, with Spear and with Preternatural Skill, I can go precog. So I can do 10 damage here, heal 4, which is basically the damage that I took in doing this attack, and go precognition. And now he's forced to get rid of my Michaela, either with his tank or with his ability, or in this case, it looks like he used a bike. So he's revealed that he has a bike, so anything I've got 3 health or not, I'm going to have to deal it. But I can deal 10 more damage. Okay. I can deal 6 more damage. I can heal again with the Preternatural Skill, and I can also heal with the Pi Alpha. So I'm in a good place. I'm in a good position. Drawing up these guys here, the Tremellis support, that might come in handy too. Because now I can do 8, and I can still heal with the Preternatural Skill. And you notice, I've only committed, aside from the flanking guys that I played early in this game, I've only played 3 Custodes troops. I've got them in my hand. I certainly have them in my hand, but I'm not playing them anytime soon. He's gonna have to deal with my tricks. He's gonna have to deal with my Pluck and Duck style, with doing damage here, damage there, establishing superiority. He's not drawing any cards with his tank, while I spent an extra 2 turns drawing cards with mine, and that gave me the advantage that I needed to. It's a very subtle game at that point, but it's a very important game. So it was a good game. It was a good game against Lion EL, or Lion Eli. I think he was trying to go with Lionel Johnson. So those are 3 event games that I've got. Nassau plays very, very akin. I mean, if you're familiar with playing the Night Haunter, when Kurz goes into madness, he plays very akin to that, except he doesn't go into stealth. You have to know when to hit and when to hit something that's going to trigger your ability. You don't have to trigger your ability every time. And against, like I said, against Hather Matt, it kind of may not be the best thing possible. If you can kill a troop with your first strike, that might just be the best way to go, as opposed to just dealing 2 damage, because you can't draw that out too long. But the longer game that you spend being able to fade away, Pluck and Duck, basically, do 2 damage, fade back, you can't hit me, 2 damage, fade back, do 2 damage plus another, 2 damage I'm healing, or 4 damage, or 6, 3 and 3, and then heal. If the longer you can do that, the more cards you build up in your hand. This is not at all different from how you would play Nassau in a normal standard game. I think the open format outside of the event, he's got a little bit more options. You can definitely come up with some very interesting things with him. But I was familiar enough with him. I like the way he played in the last event, and his decks are very good. Is it the best deck? There are some good ones. Hather Matt has definitely got a good deck. Hather Matt being able to give quick blood to his cost beaters is epic. That's just mean. And then he can heal them, or even just being able to throw down a Beast of Fyra and heal that puppy over and over again. He's got a lot of potential. So it's a very tight, tight options, tight scenarios and decks to choose from. But depending on your playstyle, or if you get Nassau, those are the things to keep an eye out for. Custodian-Warder is the deck I used. It's the deck with Paragon Spear. I don't know if Paragon Spear is in any of his other decks, but it plays so well. It plays so nicely. And even without Paragon Spear, you can still use the same abilities, the same card tricks in terms of style. Do not commit. Do not make the mistake of thinking just because you have this big nasty, you have to play it. If you're playing a Custodes opponent, it's kind of contradictory to the standard style, but if you can take 4 damage, but they don't get to draw cards for 2 turns, maybe that's a bigger benefit than you think. It really just depends. It really just depends. The fact that Nassau can basically, go precog and not have to take anything in addition to leaving their troops on the table, or specific troops that you choose, on the table, that makes a big difference. So he's got a very good ability. He plays very well. Had a great 12-win run. It was just a single event, but again, the same strategies apply as they did last event. He played fairly well. I think I would probably put him as the 3rd best event deck behind Hather Matt and his reinforcement, and Magnus, who just dominated the game. But we're past that now. So that's it. I hope that information is useful to you. I'm glad to be able to get to do another event deck video. I don't know if I'm going to do another one for this, because I'll be honest with you, I got to do Thousand Suns card by card. I've got to do Custodes card by card, the new neutrals card by card, and most importantly, I've got some new focal areas in terms of what deck design is, and I've got to touch on recruit level stuff for Pack and Ward and all the new things we've seen. My gosh, I've got a lot of work to do. And I'll be playing the event, but I don't know if I can break down every event deck. That's just not my style. That's not what I want to do, but at the same time, I think this is useful for people. I don't want people to get frustrated or think, the Thousand Suns they're just so mean and nasty. Yeah, they can be, but they're not as bad as they were. And there are options. And people who think the Custodes are garbage or are hard to play because of Sentinel, here, this is my practice mode. This does not incorporate any of the new neutral cards, because that's a whole nother project. I need more deck slots, but you'll note it's very light on Custodes. I've got blood games in there. Maybe I should tweak blood games out, but I mean, it's the neutrals do the work, and knowing when to play a Custodes is really what wins you the game. You just have to know when to play them. So that's it for me, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I hope this has been useful to you, and we will talk to you next time. Keep playing Legions.
All right, that wraps it up for me. If you liked what you saw, feel free to like and subscribe. Add any comments below. And if you think the video might be useful or the series might be useful, feel free to share that with other players that you know as well. And we'll talk to you later.